That's good.
Okay.
You ready?
You're on. Gaveler.
All right, welcome everyone to the Harbor Board meeting. It's been a while, and since we don't meet very often, it's a good chance someone will listen to us, so everyone try to speak into a microphone if you can think of it. Looks like we're all situated. First order of business, did anyone have any objection to the minutes from last meeting? If not, I guess without any objection, we'll approve the minutes.
I move we accept the minutes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay. Agenda amendments. I have one that's been suggested here that we, at the end of our new business, we recommend to the Assembly that they pass this resolution of project sponsorship. It's has to do with the ADA compliant ramp in South Harbor. Is that right, Bill?
Yeah.
So anyone have an objection to that going on the agenda? Okay, I'll just consider that done then. Visitors' views.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
how come this hasn't been changed to persons with views unrelated to the agenda yet, like everybody else's now? Madam?
Takes a while to trickle down.
Okay.
But is that
Okay, well, because I'm not a visitor.
is that in the works?
Well, I hope so.
Sure. Persons to be heard.
Persons to be heard.
Right.
I thought you were just here to listen.
Well, I am now.
Yeah.
I just had to say that, though.
Okay.
Good one.
But you're okay? You want to say anything before we start? Kurt?
I'm good. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, I guess we're on to staff reports. So,
Okay, well, lots gone on since the last time we met. As for staff, we did we had a couple of new staff members. Ed Herman left us last fall with a health issue, and we picked up Justin Pattison, and he is working out just great. Seems to like that evening shift. And on May 1st, our longtime employee Jim Birch will be retiring, and we plan to move Stacy Yort into his position and go out for hire for that split shift. It's 2 nights, 3 evenings. It kind of patches the holes of the week of our regular staff. So sometimes it's kind of hard to find somebody to do that shift, so we've got our fingers crossed. On to maintenance. Maintenance in the North Harbor, normal. We've been troubleshooting water pedestals. Big thing that went on there, we installed some safety ladders and normal repair work. But the big work that happened was we went out to bid on the North Harbor approach, which is adjacent right between us and Trident. We used all recycled materials. So that bid came in really low to Tamaco for $187,000. So it was a pretty good deal that we got there. So that's being done. Harai Engineering did the design and the admin work for $14,000. So it was just about $200,000 to get that project done, which was really reasonable, largely because we had all the materials stashed. Skiff float, we've redecked it. Middle Harbor, we've got some water line issues. A big thing that I have on our budget for next year is to do that piling survey. She's about 10 years plus years old. We figure we get about 10 years of a honeymoon on the galvanizing of the pilings. And so I had a small survey done just to kind of test it. And it's time that we look at putting the zincs on those. So got it in the budget for this coming year. South Harbor, she's our old gal, so we have been leveling and repairing finger floats. We did the piling survey also at the same time we did the Middle Harbor one, and things look good. The zincs are working. Probably got another 5 to 10 years out of those zincs left, so things are going fine there. Got water pedestal issues, ongoing water breaks with that potable water system. We are planning to build that new fire shed down there. The price of tin really went up, so I've expanded that project to go into next year. We couldn't afford with the budget that we had to buy the tin building. So we built the float, we bought all the products, we put the float together, it's sitting down there, and we will, proposed in the budget is the purchase of the building for this next year. We'll do that this fall. We also employed more safety ladders. One of the things that we've done, I've been working on working with that visitor industry group, and one of the big topics that came up is how to manage some of the dock walkers that take tours of the harbor. And so kind of a brainstorm between the maintenance team and I, when we moved, when we're going to put this new fire float in, it's considerably larger because the building not only is going to house firefighting equipment, but it's also going to house some maintenance equipment for us. So we don't have to keep dragging it back to the harbor every time we do need a project. So we're making the building a little bigger to incorporate that. And because the float's wider, it needs a bigger space. So we took out one of the 20-foot finger floats and we relocated it inside between two other finger floats in that 20-foot row and are decking it over as an observation float, kind of an observation deck. And we feel like that will really help the groups that are doing tours in the summer. We positioned it well so that they would get a good view of C float and D float, so that as they're giving their lectures they can point and kind of help describe what they're talking about when they tour the harbor. So hopefully that will lessen some of the congestion of people schooling up in the middle of the main thoroughfare and doing their lecture. They can do it there, and then they can go about their tour but not maybe do quite as much lecturing. We've got, again, it's all recycled material. We have leftover benches and things that we took out along Harbor Way there, and so we're going to repurpose some of those things, so it's not costing us very much money, and we feel like that'll throw that group a bone and benefit all of us. The South Harbor Crane was a big project this year. We rebuilt it with the help of Piston and Rudder. They did a great job. And so she's ready to go, hopefully for the next 20 years. We did an elevation survey on the South Harbor grid, which we do fairly regularly, just to make sure that the grid piles are all in compliance and that we won't have an issue there when somebody sets their boat down. Drive down, normal. We resurfaced the 30-foot wide driving lane, though. That was kind of a highlight last summer. We got together with the state and repurposed some of their chip seal that when they go and tear up roads, they end up with this material. And it actually works really well to resurface gravel roads, and then in the hot weather, you roll it, and it almost comes back together and is much more manageable down there to maintain all the potholes and things like that. It was really nice to have that partnership. Scow Bay resurface rolled that area. We're on the list to do it again as soon as the weather cooperates, and I was out there a couple days ago and it's pretty soupy still, so we'll wait till it dries up a bit. Port storage. We've scraped all of that area there last year and completely backfilled with 3-inch minus to create a little bit better drainage situation, and redid that. And we are, as you know, we're channeling more of our trailable storage items, vehicles, things like that, to that direction because it's accessible by the roadway, by the highway, and keeping the things that can't go down the highway at the drive-down approach. So had to get that place kind of squared away before we really started advertising. We gathered 12,000 plus gallons of waste oil last summer, which was a lot for a year where we didn't have a lot of transients. So keeping that in mind, I had the opportunity to purchase a 5,000-pound holding tank for more storage. We're hoping if we move forward on a maintenance shop for the harbor, we'll be able to use that tank at our location and be able to plumb in a waste oil burner similar to what Rock and Road and Wecons and a lot of other people have. So we're looking forward to that. And we can justify it because we ran out of space this year. We're in the middle of spring cleaning. Both Ben and Jake have completed their HAZWOPER, working on the new fire shed float that's done now, and checking the backflow preventers in our 4 locations. I just met with a guy, came to town yesterday, and he's planning on coming back and doing the maintenance at towards the end of the month. The feasibility study is moving forward. One thing to note there is that all the sampling they did last May with Glenn, they found that the materials qualify for in-water disposal, which is a huge cost benefit to us. So now they are in the process of conducting species surveys to know the best location where to dump the dredge spoils. We're talking, about 70,000 cubic yards or more of dredge spoils, and so it's a big undertaking if we were to drag that upland. I don't know that we have the location or could afford it, so this is a big deal. The final review is underway, and hopefully they'll come out with a recommendation in June or July that'll include the cost association with the 80-20 split. It'll be in black and white on how much we'll be into it for and what we can afford. Again, they'll spend dollar for dollar. So if we have X, they will spend Y. It's not like, well, you have to have this amount of money or we can't move forward. They will move forward until we're either the project's done or we've hit our cap. So that's a pretty nice position to be in. Miscellaneous things, launch ramps are out. Just something to note, I think people are always interested in the parking ticket situation. I looked back and we do about 500 a year. Again, it's kind of an honor-based thing, so we had about 375 are paid. Most of those, what ends up happening is if they get 6 or more tickets, then we put a boot on them. So most people, when they get near that cap, they come in and pay their tickets, and so we're doing pretty good. I have gone to the city manager about trying to get that be a citywide ticket person rather than just a harbor thing, and we would be willing to turn over the revenue from ticketing, as well as maybe even kicking in $5,000-6,000 from our budget to help employ a seasonal worker to do this. And so far it hasn't gotten much traction, but I keep hoping that we can do that. And the reality is it costs the harbor more than what we take in revenue, because we end up having to dedicate our maintenance guys sometimes 3 hours a day. So that's a big part of their day where they could be doing other things. It turns into having to have 2 maintenance guys, just because mainly in the summertime we spend a lot of time just cleaning up and picking up after people, parking, as well as just the litter picks and the cleaning the bathrooms and those kind of things. So it is turning into real dollars to have that position. Just one thing to note, this year we contracted with Trident Seafoods for moorage of 3 out of their 7 big tenders, and they would like to bring more here. They like Petersburg because they're able to get a lot of other things done rather than just tying the boats up and walking away and coming back in the spring. They had numerous local businesses down there actually doing maintenance and updating systems and things like that. And in fact, the Bulldog's coming back after Sitka because they have an ongoing project that they need to finish up before they go west. So that was a really nice kind of bump to our winter transient moorage. And we're looking at maybe upgrading the electrical system down there so we could handle a few more bigger boats. We got our camera server replacement. We're looking at putting a couple additional cameras along the waterfront. Just on the impound side of things, we've impounded 5 vessels. It's expensive to take them to the baler, but it's better than just leaving them in the harbor. We had situations where we had people looking at them and moving aboard, and so we want to get them out of our hair pretty quick like. We had 3 near sinkings of large vessels due to weather this winter season, and of course those were caught by our security that heard either saw the boat didn't look right or heard alarms and broken water pipes mainly. We've got a new security new vehicle coming to replace our number 18. Saturday, I got a call from our security guy and said, Glo, I'm parking number 18 because the brakes are completely shot in her. We have to coast to a stop, and so we've definitely worn this vehicle out, and we're getting a new one hopefully in the next 2 weeks. Was budgeted for, no surprise. We actually pushed it for about 5 years. We kept 18 around for, she's about 25 years old. So we sit on our vehicles for quite a while. The snowmobile just passed 1,000 hours of snow removal, so we rebuilt the front end. One exciting thing last month is we participated in the active shooter drill. We were the bad guys, and it's nice because we can use it for our port security training that because we are sanctioned by Homeland Security to take these cruise ships. We need to do drills every once in a while. I've attached in the packet the tour ship schedule. We're getting a few more, but it's nice for you guys to know just what we have going on in case we start talking really seriously about that Dolphin or more facilities. They're getting bigger, so the demand for the drive down is increasing. The demand for longer periods of stay at the Port Dock Petros area is increasing. Let's see. Ongoing talk about Petro. I'll have more to report when we get to that section. But other than that, yesterday I testified to the Senate Committee Community and Regional Affairs about SB 63. The governor has proposed to the Senate a bill to take all the raw fish tax and put that into the general fund, 100% of it, no revenue sharing with any of the communities. And there were 36 of us that testified, and everybody was, pled their case why they were against it, and we were no different. So I did that. And a fellow that was here just a little bit ago was talking to Debbie. Is actually David Ramsey. He was here, came to Petersburg to look at the Petro 49, the old Union building, and property. So just to let you know that he actually did show up, and hopefully he'll be coming out with a report and an appraisal here soon. So we'll know what the apples to apples. So that's it. Harbor's starting to get busy. Any questions?
Thanks, Glo. John, you have a question?
Yeah, 2 questions. What will become of the old fire shed? And then on the waste oil, does that cost the harbor anything? Or does the city pick that up and process it for free because they're using it for heat?
Yes, it costs us because we have dedicated equipment, and the staffing, in large part, it's a weekly, if not bi-weekly event that we have to go and gather it all up and then transport it up to the baler, of which the harbor bought all the equipment up there, the storage, the storage tanks and the burner, those kind of things, just to get rid of it. It is a requirement by the state that the borough takes it. We incorporate those costs, of course, into moorage, and if people come just to dump waste oil, then we charge them an extra fee for that. But yes, it does cost us. The benefit goes to the baler. They get to heat their building for free.
They don't
So-
charge you by the gallon, for instance, it's a fixed cost.
No, we gift it to them, and they use it to burn and
Okay.
heat. Yeah, so no, they don't charge us anything. They're getting free heat out of it, so if anything, we should charge them. We talked about, at some point, maybe that would be a way to generate some income to charge, other departments or charge outside, because I get contacted fairly regularly by outside entities, private business, that would like to purchase some waste oil to burn, because there's only so much to go around. Problem with what we get in the harbor is it's pretty contaminated. There's billed water, but there's also everything from Victorinoxes to, bubblegum wrappers to all sorts of stuff that end up in those compartments or in those containers. And so we end up going through and have to refine it down up there. And we have a cone tank up at the baler that they actually do go through before they can burn it. So, if we ended up, right now the baler uses it all, but if we ended up having, an opportunity to sell it, it might be a revenue stream. So if we collect more, right now, 12,000 is about average, but I can see us, especially if Thomas Bay kicks in, we'll end up with having more than we can use, so.
And the fire shed?
And the fire shed, she's almost 60 years old. There's not much there. So I'd love to gift it to anybody, or we'd probably end up it's in bad shape.
60 years old?
Yeah, it's 60 years old. It came from the old North Harbor. And then we built,
That's older than me.
about 15 years ago, we built the one that's in the North Harbor now, and the decking on that is starting to rot out. So we're looking at replacing a portion of the North Harbor one. So that old one has been there forever. So anyway, so that's not much left.
Number 18, which truck is that one?
That's the not the flatbed, it's the shop truck. It's the,
What's that one with the lift gate?
yeah. Mhm. So we were just replacing it just with pretty much the exact same thing, a Ford F-150, and putting a lift gate on it. And a
Taking that
small-
same lift gate?
It's not the exact same. No, we are getting a new lift gate.
So we're going to try to pedal that one then?
Yep, we'll auction it off.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like it needs new brakes, that's all. Okay.
Oh, it needs, yeah, we'll get top dollar for it.
About the dredging, so the in-water disposal, that sort of makes that, we were hoping to get a new standard up here. That makes that, in this case, not even relevant, right? Because in-water is
Right.
in-water.
Yeah, it sure would be nice in that it would, that was a big breath of fresh air when we got that. And probably the reality of why it came back clean is because, if you remember, the original basin was dredged to a -18, and we talked them into dredging to a -19.5. So there's a lot of new material that is coming out of this project. It's not just, the 3, 4, 6 inches all over the harbor, but it's a bunch of new material, 18 inches of new material. And so, we couldn't put it on shore. It wasn't tested clean enough to put in a tidal area where it would see current action, but we can put it in water where they figure it won't get, once it's disposed of, there's not a lot of current that's going to agitate it and allow any. It met those standards.
Does that include the inland dredging, inside the harbor, the 20-footers, that includes that Hammer Slough
Yep.
area?
Yeah, we're getting it permitted for all that, as well as over by the Middle Harbor. kind of run the crane duct.
So excuse me, did you see the testing results comparison between this and like the drive down re-dredging that we had to go upland with?
The drive down, we didn't. We got to use those spoils. That's what the approach was built out of, is the South Harbor.
Right, but we had to put it in a diaper.
Yep. Yeah, it's similar. It's very similar to that. Yeah, but standards have tightened up that we couldn't use it in that kind of a situation anymore.
Yeah, that's why it was so clean that green turtles laid eggs there. One other thing, just on that sea float, are we just thinking about putting in more power pedestals or
Yeah.
upgrade? Okay, that's all we got to do then. We don't have to upgrade the wires running out there or anything.
No, there's enough power.
How many pedestals are out there now?
We have 2 pedestals with 3-phase 60 amp and 30 amp. So it's there's 4 meters out there.
And those guys are probably looking for more like 100 amp or something?
Yeah, I don't know that we could support that, but we could get a few more. See, it serves the 2 inside spots, as well as if we get them too deep, then there's only 2 meters for the outside. So what had ended up happening is the Brittany and the Bulldog tied together, and they shared a meter.
But they didn't have much running at 60 amps.
No, they did not.
Well, for winter maintenance, they probably don't need a lot running.
No, but they could use more than that. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to be able to at least give them each their own meter. Plus all summer, you could use it.
Those meters are what, 2,500 a piece or something?
About $6,000.
Oh, $6,000, okay. And that would be installed?
Yeah. So we put about 15,000 towards that. You know,
So was Trident thinking about leaving all 7 here or just,
they'd love to, but we can't tie them up. I could probably tie up 2 more.
okay.
Go double deep on the outside of C and tie 1 in the loading zone. So, yeah, no, they'd like to tie them all up here.
Going back to the parking issue, I know our last meeting, last June, we talked a lot about parking. Ended up coming to no decision on anything, but it was made apparent that that's not harbor parking, it's city parking. And so it seems like the assembly should be willing to work with us a little more on enforcing that parking, since it's not just for harbor users. Therefore, it shouldn't just be the burden of the harbor staff and the ratepayers to enforce that parking.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed that that is indeed a general parking area for town, all businesses along there. So I'm still not at peace with the situation. I don't know what to do. I don't want anything this meeting, but keep that on the radar. Any ideas you guys have for
Yeah, let you know.
manager? 'Cause it's ironic that our town is sort of, people worry about it being in decline, and yet everywhere we go, there's parking problems. So I guess maybe just everyone's driving more or something. And those are always the last things to get funded in a project too. Nobody wants to spend money on a parking capital project. So. Other than that, anybody else?
On the parking, excuse me, where's the majority of your tickets written for the Middle Harbor?
No, actually the South Harbor.
South Harbor?
You get a lot of, with the 7-day, people park there and then they'll jump aboard and not come home.
Yeah.
And with the 30-day being full, it's full right now, there just isn't, there's no overflow.
What's the cost of a ticket for the 7-day parking?
$15.
Do you get one every day afterwards?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Till you get the
I
boot.
was gonna say, that'd be pretty cheap parking, $2 a day, but if you
Yeah.
keep getting them, at least it motivates you to
Yeah,
take care of the problem.
yeah. No, once we get it, then we just, and then when we hit the 6th one, we throw a boot on it. And then there's $35 boot removal fee. So you end up getting to be, on upwards of $120. Now, if that was done by the police department or somebody sanctioned by the police, the beauty of those are first of all, they're more expensive. I think they're $25 tickets. Plus, you can go to court with them. We can't go to court with ours because they're not a state issue. So that's why the boot came into effect. It's like, okay, you get the wrath of GLOW, not the wrath of the state of Alaska. And if you want to, if you want your vehicle back, then you got to come get the boot off. So.
Even the boot plus a picture on Facebook.
Yeah, right. So that's, and it seems to work, and we've had far less of that. And usually after a couple of weeks, 30 days, at least by 30 days, then we'll impound the vehicle and just get it up to the impound lot. So then there's an additional cost there because we have to hire Petersburg Motors to come down and get it. So then you're starting to rack up, you're talking $300-400 to get your car out of hock. So there are, once you get into the cycle, it keeps ratcheting higher. So it's not like, okay, well, I'll just park my car there and leave it, and big deal, $120 to store my car there for the summer. Well, it's not. That's not. If it sits in the impound lot too long, and then they'll auction it off. So, so there, it increases the level of severity.
All right.
Don't you still have 30-day parking on the drive-down access?
Yes.
Or whatever you call it?
Yeah, and it is, I think we'll be able to get through another year of using that, but I can see in the short term that we're probably going to be looking at storage, starting to encroach in that area, storage.
No, that's what I was
Because
wondering.
we're double deep now. We're double deep with bait houses, and I can't really go too much deeper on that side, but that's what it was built for.
How many spots are there now in the 30
I
days?
think there's like 40, something like that. We took out 6 when we put the bulkhead in, so there might not be 40 anymore.
That's why it's imperative that we get Metro Marine there for storage, if nothing else.
Yeah, right.
All right. Guess we're moving on to the unfinished business of the harbor maintenance shop.
So Kurt had me do a little more detailed investigation on actually proposed sites and costs associated with the many different proposed sites. Again, the harbor, just a little history for those of you that don't remember. 96, the state came out and said, we're getting out of the harbor, DOT's getting out of the harbor business, we're going to give you 10 years to get your act together. We did, they did. 2006, they transferred the last harbor over to Petersburg, and so we own these facilities now. Since 2006, we own this, it's a big infrastructure for the borough, and so along with that, because we own these, we can't really prescribe to the philosophy that the state had, which was they build you a new facility, they turn it over to the municipality, you use it till it's in the ground, you really wear it out, nobody puts any maintenance into it, and we'll come back 40, 50 years and build you a new one, right? Well, they realize that that is not feasible anymore, and so they gave us a little deferred maintenance money, they turned these facilities over to it, it's on us. Now, we've built these harbors with hopefully, 50, 60, 70-year lifespan, but we have to, in order to get that extra 20, 30 years, we're going to have to do major maintenance. And so we now have 2 maintenance employees to help handle the projects in the harbor. And we do not, and yet we've stayed with the same maintenance bench, pretty much, our little back room and half a dozen of these connexes around. And we've increased the storage, in various locations, but it's just become so inefficient that I'm here again, again asking the Assembly to move forward to find us a decent maintenance facility. We are maxed out in our properties we don't have room, or it doesn't make sense to put a maintenance facility, say, out in Scow Bay, where it's, 6-8 minutes to get to and from. It doesn't make sense to put it off-site, I guess is what I'm saying. So we've proposed this idea of Petro Marine, and a lot of people have talked about, well, there are other, better ways to get the maintenance facility. I don't see it, and here is proposed sites in a draft that I think backs up what the department has been saying. So we came up with about 9 different locations, and talking with Carl Hagerman, the Reed brothers, Barry Youngberg, Jesse West, Joe Bertinoli, people like that. We feel like we've put together really what it would take to, say, develop and build a new facility as opposed to buying Petro Marine. So we start with the existing borough-owned Dock Street warehouse that currently Petro is using. It's part of their lease. They don't want to give it up. That's part of the reason why they want to do the transfer, because they like that building for their lube oil where their trucks are, and they don't want to give it up. They want to own it, though, rather than lease it. So if we were, though, to take it over, the advantages are, of course, it's borough-owned. The disadvantages are the ones that I've listed, and we feel that the cost would be roughly $400,000. And if you see anything in all of this and you want to question me about it or challenge, please do. I mean, this is a document that's in a draft form that hopefully you had a chance to kind of look through last night and really challenge some of the numbers here, because when we give it over to the assembly, we want to make sure that it's been vetted pretty well. The second location is the drive-down approach. Of course, the advantages are it's close to the harbor, it's borough-owned, we could do it all in one location, but the disadvantages are the costs. Middle Harbor, costs are increased because we have to develop. We don't have enough room already. We just got done with a 5-minute conversation on parking. We can't eat up more of the parking lot, so what do we got to do? We got to fill. That's a big part of the cost. South Harbor Crane Dock, it's the area right over here adjacent to Dave Ellis. If we were to take that back out of the parking situation and turn that into a maintenance facility, again, it's costs of new. North Harbor approach, we just got done. We're waiting for Jimmy to deck it, but that approach between Trident and us, yeah, it's close. It's close to the harbor. That's a big advantage. Close to the harbor office, but the disadvantage is it's in a really poor location, and there's no room. We probably have to go 2-story. We probably have to get a crane. We probably, and then you're fighting with Trident all the time, because that's their main area for transferring their product to and from AML. Whole yard has been brought up. I talked to Carl about it. He's not interested in giving it up, and I know Public Works is interested in using that for a location. And a big disadvantage is it's so far away from the harbor. Again, like Scow Bay, you're talking about having your people there, and we're a small staff. There's many times when it's just 2 of us in the office, and one of them's a maintenance guy, and so if he's out there and I got a situation in the South Harbor, that means I'm going to shut the office down to go down and deal with the situation, put a power washer out, somebody's meter's not, it's just, we're not big enough staff to have a maintenance facility so far out of, off the property. Scow Bay, I already pretty much spoke to that. Port storage area. We own that property. That would be adjacent to the shipyard behind Ace Electronics. But it's a leasable area, right? We're leasing that, and we're hoping to encourage more leasing of that area. And so that's a big disadvantage, loss of income. And then the final one, the 9th one, is the Petro building. And you can see there the advantages versus the disadvantages. And this is over a 5-10 year span. We figure it's going to be the least expensive. We've already factored in the loss of income, like I've repeatedly told the Assembly when they come back to that. And there's just, the advantages just seem like they're really, make the case for that location. So I don't know if you have any questions. I just wanted you to have it in front of you so that you can speak to it if and when you get jumped by anybody. And if there's anything else you can add to it or put in the advantage or disadvantage category. Or you got another location you want me to explore.
Well, I find it really helpful to have that all listed there, and if you strike me as totally unacceptable, and some seem like, maybe if we had to choose, that'd be a second choice. But anything to say, Kurt?
Yeah, I was going to say that, everybody's complaining that it's a 35-year-old building. Well, I've got a 45-year-old steel boat in the harbor. Big deal, it's still floating. The other thing is that the thing that kind of, I think, is hanging up the Assembly a lot of is that $400,000 dolphin. Well, we don't have to put in a $400,000 dolphin. We just got to give them $130,000 or whatever the difference is, and we've got all new land. We've got this building, we got more land. That seems to me like a killer deal. Forget the dolphin. You know what I mean? I mean, Pet Marine was willing to take that extra $130,000, whatever the difference is going to be, and apply it towards the dolphin if we put in the rest of the money. But we don't have to do that.
So
So if I had
realistically,
$135,000 and that property was available to me, and I could trade a building, a small building for that, I'd do it in a heartbeat. That's the way I see it. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's
you
absolutely
look at
a
that
no-brainer.
number 9 costing 180, well, 130 of it would go back into a new dolphin.
If we wanted to do that.
Yeah,
If that's the direction we wanted to go.
Which, if you remember, we've leveraged roughly about $3.5 million for $24 million of additions in our harbor, throughout, in about a 5-year span. Legislative grants. We got the North Harbor, we got the crane dock, we got that drive down. We leveraged very little of our own money to get those facilities. And this is kind of what I'm looking at as the same kind of opportunity. We leverage a little bit to get to get a partner to go along and build that for us. So I agree. I think people are not following the path to the end point. So, as far as that dolphin, I hope the Assembly, if they move forward this project and they don't want to commit to building the dolphin, they just say, hey, we've got, let's talk about it in 30 months from now, or whatever that magic number is that they say. I can get something like that designed and built in a few months. It's not, it doesn't take years to design and go out to bid and build something like that. We could do it in 5-6 months, easy. So it's, it's not a decision that you have to say, the Assembly would have to say no to right away.
Right. Well, the other thing, too, is that we had, whatever, it was 30 months or 36 months, whatever it was, to start the project,
Yeah.
which means...
Start getting
putting
it
out to bid.
signed.
It may take another couple of years after that, but
Right.
anyway, I just thought if the dolphin is the stumbling block right now, and it's the big hang-up for a lot of guys on the Assembly to think about, let's forget about it.
They just...
$130,000 for that property?
They just, here this week, came out with the ruling in the Juneau lawsuit with the tour ship companies, and the judge has said, got it in black and white, that head tax money, marine head tax money, has to be used for projects that benefit the ship. Sure, you can go a little ways down that road and do things for the passengers aboard the ship, but the project really has to benefit the ship.
Right.
So there you go. I mean, that would be right out of the chute, would be an ideal use of this new money that's getting generated by a head tax come, the first of this year, 2019.
What did we think that money was, how much money was that going to be per year? Did you
She
estimate?
thought 35,000 initially, so you save that up for a couple of years, and pretty soon, boom, you've got your match.
3 years, you got 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go, there's your
Yeah.
You know, there's your
That's the
money for now.
130 that they were willing to donate back, so there's 230.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, anyway,
And that was the engineer's estimate, 400,000, or almost 380,000 for this little thing over here. And we ended up getting it for almost half of that, or having it done by half of that. So if you had 230 and they thinking it's 400 for that Dolphin now, it could be around,
yeah,
could be less than that, so,
could be.
yeah. I mean, times are tough. I don't think construction companies are gonna be going out and shooting the moon anymore. I think they're gonna be looking at, how cheaply can they possibly get this, because they gotta go to work. There isn't any big projects right now for Tamaco or any of these other companies, sitting out there for them, so.
I felt like the Dolphin, I think it was meant to maybe sweeten the deal, but in a way it sort of made the issue.
Yeah,
Some people went really,
yeah,
got really excited against
Yeah.
it.
yeah. That's why I just thought if we just kind of looked at two options, eliminated it altogether to get that off the plate, and then revisit it later after we get things moving.
I agree. I think public
Yeah.
perception of that
Yeah.
went kind of wild. The thing I'm worried about is just in general, the budget climate, any money spent on anything at this point, it looks a little bit sketchy until we see how we're going to cope with the new budget realities, so.
Except in the harbor, we're an enterprise fund. We make all our money. We are not dependent on the state. We don't get state other than raw fish tax,
Well,
the
which is
revenue.
significant, though. If we
And,
don't get the raw fish tax,
Right.
we're looking at, from what I could see in the budget, there's maybe some areas you could cut, but huge rate increases, because
You know how I looked at that, Bob, is that if he's going to give me $3,000, I'm going to be taking probably $2,000 of that on the increase. I mean, so here's my raw fish tax. You know what I mean? So, it's not like it's going to come out of my pocket. That's free money. I didn't do anything to earn that $3,000. They're just going to give it to me. So, I mean, just look at it that way. That's how I've already planned it. Here's your raw fish tax, Glo.
thought of it that way. It seems like it's mushrooming into about 10,000 a year I'm going to have to spend to pay for the 3,000 I'm going to take. But
How's that working out? How many boats you going to have,
I don't
Bob?
know how that's all. Does
Yeah,
anyone have
anyway.
anything to say about these options here?
Good work.
Nice to have them.
Yep.
Why does a building always have to be insulated, it says in the little requirements here? Is that it?
We need to have an insulated facility. Yeah,
So you can heat it?
yeah. I mean, we're storing paint and we're storing, things that can freeze. We're storing, we need to have an insulated building.
Seems like maybe you could just heat the space that had those specific things. So,
How much difference was it going to be from insulated versus uninsulated? 20, 30,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not significant.
but then that implies heating the entire space too, which,
Yeah,
It's not that, it's not that big of a space,
yeah.
And we're not heating it, to living conditions. We're heating it to with free heat. So remember that. It's waste oil that we're using to heat that we either give to somebody else to use or we can use it ourselves.
Yeah, so to be realistic though, as you mentioned earlier, it's not really free heat. Is there any way you could break down how many hours Ben works on getting that oil, and then can we then divide that into the amount of gallons and say it's actually costing us $1.35 a gallon? Is there any way of doing that? I mean, just so that we're comparing apples to apples here,
What do you want to compare?
Well, okay, so you said that it takes up, bi-weekly or weekly.
We still have to do it, Kurt.
Well, I understand you do, but
No, I still have to do it. So whether we get the benefit of using it or somebody else gets the benefit of using it.
well, that's what I meant. So do we know what that gallon of?
Yeah, his employee to do all of this is
Right.
about $100,000 a year.
Well, okay, but he
that's
does
a
other things
big-
too. But
that's
I mean,
a
can you
big- I
break
would
down
say- I would-
break down that $100,000 so in actual
30,000.
time? 30,000, and we got 12,000 gallons? Okay, that's easy to do
Yeah.
the math.
It's about a third,
$2.80 or something
probably a
like that.
third of his week, third of his
Okay.
life, one person.
Yeah.
I would like to say I fully support the land swap. When you look at some of these options, we're giving up parking, we're giving up police space. we'd be gaining that. We'd have an oil containment system. And then when I look at these quotes, would have to go out to bid for construction.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of view those as minimum numbers, because how many times do we see things cost substantially more than what was bid and get cost overruns? So, I mean,
Where we got this number was from the state. They actually went out to bid on a building that's roughly the size and these are the numbers they came back with, but it was uninsulated, and it wasn't, it didn't have plumbing going to it, it didn't have big electricity. It's pretty much just a warehouse to store equipment. It's not a building, it's not a facility, maintenance facility. So, yeah, you're right. It would probably be considerably higher, but
just from the time that
Yeah.
these estimates were done,
Yeah.
I mean, the cost of everything goes up. I mean, how old are these estimates?
it was in, I think, November.
Oh, not that
Oh,
old.
it's not, yeah.
But, we wait 6, 8, 10 months a year, and then everything goes up.
Price of tin goes up. Well, that's what we found with the,
This makes great sense.
yeah.
Like Kirk says, no brainer.
What's planned for the new North Harbor approach?
We're decking, we're just waiting for the decking, and then we'll put the waste oil back there, and that, I believe, we will probably start storing more of our building materials. Right now, we store all our building materials on top of vans, so that they're harder to steal, or I try and chain link things up, or put it in, up at the Public Works, or places that are, have better security. So we'll probably stockpile that kind of stuff that isn't easily stolen, or is
Is there
easily
a
stolen.
garage plan for that?
What?
Wasn't there a garage
No.
plan? It's going to be over the deck.
Yeah. I mean, eventually, maybe we'll put some kind of, but we've got snow issues, we've got, parking issues, it's just, it wouldn't be good to deck it up. I mean, it wouldn't be good to cover it all over.
What if it was kind of like, up at the school there, kind of an open-sided tin roof shed,
Yeah,
just,
maybe we'll do something like that.
Covered
eventually.
area. The ravens to hang out.
Yeah.
yeah, place for the pigeons.
We got issues with the Trident, they shed, their roof sheds snow. And I'm not sure, I've talked to them about putting clips on it, but I'm not sure that the structure can handle the snow. And so that's one of the things that, we actually designed a little beefier on that side because of all that snow that comes down and dumps on that area. So putting a roof, it's, you got to be careful what you build over there. We caved in in the winter.
Well, I agree that I think land swap seems like the best option, but I do understand the financial, people being hesitant with the potential of raw fish tax to throw our harbor budget way, way out of balance. That this could be more out of pocket to the ratepayers than we originally had hoped. So,
But, as looking long-term, you're actually saving. We'll be able to save so much more by having a maintenance facility rather than, nickel and diming things and doing it out of the Hammer Weekon, whatever they have on the shelf. Right now, I had a conversation with my guys, we got a couple of big projects going on. Okay, we need a bunch of galvanized nails, literally. Okay, we'd like to order, some big quantity of galvanized nails. And they're like, Glow, I can't, because where am I going to put them? If I put them in any one of our containers, they're going to, freeze up into a big block.
say not rust, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't work. And so what do? The last thing we had was literally the server shelf, right? That we had to replace. We could have, it's a nice cabinet that would have been really handy for something else. We have it sitting over in Steve's office right now because I don't have a place to store anything. So when you talk about, we're making, it's a poor reason. That's a very poor reason not to move forward with this, because we will save in the long run.
But what Bob's talking about, Glo, has nothing to do with what we're going to do with the land swap. It has to do with Dunleavy's budget. Because what are we losing out on, $25,000?
What?
Dunleavy's talking about $800,000. I mean, $25,000 versus $800,000, that's where your significant change in your mortgage rate's going to come from, is him, not the $25,000.
What's your 25, the yearly loss in lease?
Yeah, but that's all we're going to lose there, so that's
Right.
not significant at all. That's like $1 a foot per year.
Right.
You know,
Right.
for everybody increase. It's not like,
Yeah.
it's not like $25 a foot per year with Dunleavy's, you
Right.
know?
No, and I get that. I get that. That's why we have to really be responsible, because those kind of things are going to go away. And we have to, I mean, we turned that, I asked Jimmy what the cost would have been if we had not saved all that materials over the course of the projects and stashed it here and there. That we literally went to 3 different locations to show Alan Murph what we had on hand for him to design that approach. He said, oh, easily over 500. It would have been over 500 to rebuild that approach. But we saved all that material, and we got it built for 187. So,
200.
you know, that really is a point to consider. That, you know, we
201,000.
have to have. We have to have.
15,000 on top of 187.
We would have had to have it designed anyway. I mean, that's the materials
Yeah.
cost. We got it for free. So,
All right, I guess we're sort of rolling in this direction anyway, but the next item is new business, 2020 harbor budget.
yeah, so the harbor budget, we're looking good. You know, it looks like a bunch of gobbledygook there by the end, you know, with all of the things, but I'll just kind of lead you through it. So you look at the first part of it, it's the revenue. The thing that we add together really are their total operating revenues is 1.47, and you add that to a little bit of investment income. The PERS gets taken out on the other side, so you can disregard that. And I like to use that fish tax. I usually I'm pretty conservative on it, but also throw that at depreciation. So I usually don't factor that into operations. So that, again, I hope you understand that as a board. We try not to use the raw fish tax on the daily operations. Daily O&M, yearly, annual O&M, we do not use raw fish tax. We put that aside for big projects, match money, try and leverage it, of which we've been pretty successful. So if you look at that it's pretty much 1.5, and jump down to then the expenditures, what we're spending, you add all those up, we're at 1.3. So we're bringing in 1.5, we're spending 1.3. 1.39, so 1.4. Depreciation is that number that scares us. That's really what we should be setting aside based on a 40-year reconstruction. So if we were to live really, put our money where our mouth is, our mortgage and our fees should be double what they are now. Price us out, pretty much out of competition.
Yeah. Is this depreciation factor in the 50/50 harbor grants? Or no, that's just straight up, right?
Straight up.
Yeah, so
Replacement of our $60+ million facility over a 50-year span.
okay.
So,
no
because there's
consideration for
limits.
grants, though? Okay.
No, there aren't, and that's what I do. That's what I factor in. That's why I'm saying we don't have to charge double what we charge now.
Right.
Because we have the ability to get grants. We have the ability to leverage this money. But if we were to pay for it, everything out of pocket and never get a dime from anybody, yeah, we'd have to be charging pretty much double. So, the daily, we're living within our means. We're living within our means on the income and what it costs to run the place. Now you jump down to the capital outlays. These are the small projects. These are the things that that we've kind of looked out at the next year projects, things that we have to spend. And we look like if we go forward and everything comes in at, that if it happens or it comes in what we budget it for, we'd be dipping into our savings about $180,000. So, but again, you look at stuff like the rebuild dock project adjacent to the harbor office. We budgeted $340,000, but it only cost us $200,000 to do. So that money, again, we're an enterprise fund, that just rolls over into our back into our savings. We don't, if we don't spend it, it's not gone. So, as we go through the year, I've budgeted, for some machinery and equipment that comes up. We're going to get another couple of security cameras. Looking at doing some computer upgrades because we're going from Windows whatever to Windows 10. I talked to Casey about replacing our 50-horse outboard. I don't know that we're going to do it. She's running so well, but it's been 3 years of me saying this now. Budget for it, but we haven't bought. So she's in good shape, and we've had it maintenance.
How many years
we may or we may not.
How many years on the outboard?
We usually replace them every 10. So she's.
No, I mean for hours. How many hours? I'm sorry.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Yeah, Dave
She's over the hours that we usually replace.
Yeah.
But like our truck, we run them until they're.
Yeah.
You don't get much of a. They don't give us much money back on them, so
right.
you might as well run them into the ground. So, we've been putting $2,500 towards new dock ladders. Peter Mihalik has a pretty nice system that he's built for us now. We've got, I think, 12 or 15 of his ladders, and so what I usually do is budget $2,500 each year, and then we have him do 5 or 10 at a whack. So it works out well if I call him up in March and say, hey, let's do 5 now, and then come July 1st, let's do 5 more. So he does 10 at a whack, because once he gets everything all set up. So we're able to keep the costs down on those. But they're about $500 a pop.
Are they the pull-down ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, then I've seen them then. Okay.
Yep. Let's see, South Harbor float maintenance, we just pretty much, we're rebuilding finger floats annually. There's just flotation issues that come up there. We threw $30,000 at the Corps of Engineer dredge study. It's just kind of the leftover of what we haven't used. I don't know that we're going to spend that, because we pretty much, I think, are done with our portion by July 1st. The Middle Harbor anode installation, I put $85,000 there, thinking that it'll be less than that, but might as well shoot high. Office repairs are windows and windowsills. She's a 40-year-old building. We're going to replace the windows, a few more windows upstairs. Let me see. Oh, jump up a little higher. The building remodel plan. I asked Susan Harai to give us a cost estimate that it would take her to do a conceptual drawing, design with a price tag on remodeling our the harbor office. Again, it's 40 years old. Those bathrooms are in really pretty bad state, and we may look at redesigning how the layout of that. So anyway, that's $7,400 that I hope to to spend with her. Then jumping back down to the Petro trade, it's been on there. I don't know if it's happening or not, but that's kind of what the difference is.
Well, if that happens, the 120, have you, that $60,000 that you've got under a 5-year program building an area upgrades on that, is that in there someplace which would be?
Well, that'll be go over the next 5 years, so.
Which would be 12,000 current, though. If you did it this year, it'd be 12,000.
Yeah, and you can't really, no, it's shelving and things like that. So yes, that's under maintenance equipment and those kind of things. So it's spread out. We figure to move in and cost roughly $20,000 in materials and I'm not going to go about and buy a bunch of stuff. The guys are going to buy materials and they're going to build shelves. That kind of stuff. We're going to move,
So, that would be on top of that 120 Petro
Yeah,
trade
yep,
number.
yep.
So that's all I was.
Yep. The South Harbor Fire Shed, the price tag of the building is $26,000, so that's why that number's there.
Is that going to be built in-house?
Yep. We're buying materials and building it in-house. And then the upgrade at the end of Sea Float, $15,000. I don't know if it's going to happen, but, you got to put it in the budget somewhere. So that's where we came up with that $346,000. The other one that is a must that we pay is the debt service of $115,000. So that is another price tag. So all of that is 1.3.
Yeah.
You add that with the other rest of the expenditures. Again, we're bringing in 1.5. So looks like we'd have to dip into the savings about $180,000 if we move forward on everything. Who knows if we are? So.
What's the retirement date on those bonds?
We have 2 more years.
Just 2 more years?
This year, next year.
Right, that's a huge chunk of
Yeah,
money there.
yeah, it's about 10%.
That all of a sudden would come in.
Yeah, it'll be about 8% on our income. So yeah, I figured that
Keep in mind.
there's our rate increase right there.
Yeah, just something to keep in mind, yeah.
Yep.
Glad I bring that up.
So, anyway, so we're doing okay. The raw fish tax, as I testified yesterday, he's proposing all sorts of things. It has to get passed by the legislature. And I think there will be a lot of legislators that are going to lose their jobs if most of these bills that he's putting forth pass. I don't think that they are going to have the support of the people. So, it's in law. The raw fish tax is law. And so we have to change the law. It's not, is something that he could line item veto, take it, but then it comes back and, he's got to get 75%, which is hard, but I think that he'll get it because they'll lose their jobs if
I was
all
going to say,
of a sudden-
3/4, yeah, I don't know, they're going to realize that that's not a place to be taking money from. Places like Dutch Harbor is going to lose $8 million and things like that, you can't take that kind of money.
And that's not going to the harbor. That's supporting the.
We could be a little more creative, take, we only get 1.5% of raw fish tax. Why don't you just put a 1.5%, increase on, on fish tax and take that? Because that comes right out of the processor's pocket. You're not going to hardly even notice that as a fisherman.
He said he refuses to talk about any revenue, any new revenue ideas until cuts are made.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, they'll just take all the communities around Alaska and then shake them up and throw them out on the table and, instead of just going, wait.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the governor aside, the assembly is the one that decides how much goes to the harbor. You can see that
Yeah.
the borough's getting squeezed also, so I still feel uncertain about that revenue being relied upon in our budget. I think we're going to have to eventually do our job as an advisory board and maybe help make some tough decisions on raising rates on one hand versus spending less on the other. That's my feeling about what's coming up here in the next few years.
I think, just to advocate for, we run a really tight ship. We have made those big cuts. We have one of the smallest staffs for 24/7 service. If we were, we would probably, the area that you would look to cut is staffing. And so you'd probably look at doing away with the night shift is probably where you would get the biggest bang for your buck. And if you want to go there, and then deal with the ramifications of
That
that.
could possibly increase the day shift's costs,
Oh, yeah.
when they're having to pick up the pieces from a fire or,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
boat sinking or something like
So,
that.
I mean, I just don't know. I think you're going to have to look at raising rates. And I don't know that we can cut our way to prosperity, and we've got a pretty tight budget. Yeah, you could, not buy a couple of security cameras, save 10,000 or what, but I do that anyway. That's what those capital outlays are. We only do those things if we can afford it. So, as you can see from prior years, there are things that we didn't do, and they're still on the list for 3 years. So, I think, I hope that before we start having those conversations that we really take into account what the ramifications are of cutting staff.
I think those of us as boat owners, don't realize the money savings on having security cameras there, because we haven't had to deal with theft on our boats, or if we have had thefts on our boats, they get caught pretty easily, So, I mean, whatever little riffraff has ever gone on in the harbor, I think just about most of it has been recovered. So, and because of the cameras, it just makes sense.
What category do the Scow Bay leases fall in? Is that port leases?
Yes.
Okay. Scow Bay, let's see, my lease, for instance, in Alaska Yacht Services, they come out to $7,800. And it's a little bit frustrating that the city is so dependent on sales tax. Scow Bay, for instance, generates about $15,000 of sales tax per year.
We don't see any of that. Harbor doesn't see any.
For the boats that are hauled.
Yeah.
And you're pressed, you have a hard time coming, you want to spend $2,000 on maintenance there. And the city, the borough, the maintenance is due to the traffic. And probably 75% of the traffic is this general traffic. It's not related to any harbor operations. And there's traffic there because it's a city-owned right-of-way. Also, it's and you can't get out of that. That is pretty much permanent. So there's a whole bunch of traffic that should be the responsibility of the city, and a whole bunch of maintenance that's required because of that traffic. That's not related to my operation or Steve's, and yet we're kind of being. It's difficult for us to generate that sales tax because it's hard to haul boats over the irregular ground. And if there could be a little more money spent on maintenance, I think it would generate more sales tax.
Sure, of which we don't. So we spend the money, but we don't get the benefit of it.
Yeah,
Right?
and so
That's backwards.
why do you have to foot all the money for maintaining that pad? Because the fire department is using it.
Yeah.
And then all the general traffic that is there for just recreational traffic, practicing for high-speed
I think,
trains.
that's probably a better question to Kurt. The Harbor Enterprise Fund is hit hard. We're the biggest customer of many of the other enterprise funds. We're the biggest customer of Power and Light. We're the biggest single customer of the Baylor. We're the biggest customer,
Yep.
And so, yeah, when you go to the assembly or you go to the manager and ask for cost-saving measures on buying your own garbage truck, this enterprise fund buying their own garbage truck, they refuse because they've balanced other budgets on the fact that the harbor is contributing. And
Yeah.
so Public Works Department, they'd have to raise, I don't know, I mean, their budget would have to increase. So it's one of those things that's why it's an easier argument, I think, for getting things like raw fish tax, because they want a healthy harbor. They need to have a healthy harbor enterprise fund in order to support all these other things. There's so many factors to it that it's, we generate huge sales tax. We're the only department that charges sales tax. So there's huge numbers that come in to the city coffers from sales tax, and of which we collect, and portion of our budget is admin. It's $100,000 that goes into supporting this building, comes right out of the mortgage and rates.
No.
So it's
I'm in the same boat you are on
Yeah.
a smaller scale.
right. So it's it's just
So what do you do, go to the budget committee of the Public Works, for instance, or the fire
Yeah.
department, and
of which
hey,
they
start contributing?
don't have advisory boards anymore. They did away with all of those. So you're a very unique group. There, not many departments have. There's no utility board anymore. No park and rec board. There's no Power and Light. I mean, they don't have any. It's this.
So you have to go directly to the assembly?
Yeah. They've done away with all those advisories.
Could you explain the different roles between PEDC and the Harbor Board, or the Harbor Enterprise when it comes to Scout Bay?
Yes, the assembly has tasked PEDC, Economic Development Commission, with advancing a boat yard out there, out at the Scow Bay. And so they've been given, rather it being than being a harbor project per se, they're looking at it more as an economic engine, maybe because we haven't ever, as opposed to say the way Wrangell does it. Wrangell's harbor owns the boatyard. I think we here in Petersburg have always looked at having a public-private partnership, and so it fits better under the PEDC. John doesn't want to be an employee of the harbor. He has his own operation. And so I think we like that better in Petersburg than other places that John would be an employee of the harbor and doing what he's doing, and the harbor owns the equipment and that kind of thing. So it's been an economic opportunity. It's on that level rather than more infrastructure by the.
But has there ever been an assembly agenda where that was on a topic?
It was years ago. Yeah. I don't think the Harbor Advisory Board ever went to the assembly to say, hey, we want to take that on. I mean, no advisory assembly, I don't think has ever heard that from the Harbor Board, that they want to be the owner of a boatyard.
But it would have to almost predate PEDC, because I think I've been to every PEDC meeting and watched
PEDC started in
90s.
in 95. 1995,
Well, I'm looking at it.
so.
Well, I have a question on commercial drive-down facility fees. Are those just entirely the permits, the commercial permits?
The drive down?
Commercial drive-down facility fees?
Yeah, that's the drive down. That's the $2.80 you pay a lineal foot to use the facility.
Okay, don't we still have a commercial launch permit
Yeah, we
thing
do.
going on, and what?
Yep, and that's under launch permits, commercial use permit. There's about 5 people. We maybe generate a couple hundred, maybe $1,000. It doesn't have its own line item.
If off the end of the dock, or
No, it's Charles Davis doing business in it's Petro Marine, it's the welders.
Isn't
it's
it Rocky
people.
Marine?
Huh?
Doesn't Rocky Marine have a,
Rockies has, yep.
John, do you have them?
A commercial?
Yeah, I mean, do you pay a fee for every boat you pull across
No,
borough property, or?
no, he has
Blanket $250.
yeah, he pays it's a $250 annual
It's
fee.
just a lease
Yeah.
thing?
No, it's not a lease,
lease.
it's just a permit.
Just a permit,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's not based on the number of boats, it's based
No.
on?
correct. The same as all the, Hammers Marine.
jobbers, yeah, all the
Rockies.
jobbers have one.
Yeah, right.
All we all pay the same.
Yeah.
So before we move on, Joe, is your issue out there is just the puddles that form in your pathway to the
Yeah.
property?
And thanks for asking about that. Correct. It's, when you're hauling a 20, 30-ton vessel, it starts rocking with all the potholes in there. And I do have a suggestion. I forgot to bring this up. I think last year you scheduled a date for the project, and unfortunately it was during heavy rains. And so
Yeah.
all the work that was done there, you graded, the borough graded it only once last year. All the work that was done was for naught. Within 3-4 days, it was back to the puddles because there was standing water on the entire pad. So it's
Really,
graded and then wet.
that whole area needs to be dug out and put in, good drainage material. And when you go out there now and you walk and you sink.
Oh,
I mean, it's
Everywhere's-
really, it's like any gravel road. And so we need to really take that on as a big project and
Well-
probably resurface it like we did the storage area out behind, and that was $10,000.
The substrata is in good shape. It's solid rock. And when it is graded and compacted, when it's dry, it will last for many, many months. And so I think it would be important to at least try to be versatile enough with the schedule to do that
Yeah.
work during the dry period.
Yeah, we're at the whim of Public Works, and we get on their list, and we pay them. We pay for the equipment, we pay for the operator, and we pay for the material. So you can use that $2,000 pretty quick. So,
Have you ever thought about putting that out as an RFP? So somebody like Rock and Road or Reed Brothers could put a bid on that? And
$2,000?
well, no, could we just
Oh,
get
of
an RFP
course,
just to
yeah,
see
if you
what
want to
it
turn
costs?
it into a big project.
I'm not saying a big project.
Well, I
saying
mean, but that's
just
what it
to
would
maintain
be.
it, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Just
Mainly
come
the-
by every month or something and look at it,
Mainly
maybe
a
the right
20-foot
way.
wide straight line that you need to preserve. And that whole parking lot, I think the public has a tradition of just driving down there to see what's going on. When you drive at high speed, you create puddles. Why do we even have that open to such things? Could you have a little lane that had piling on each side, logs laid down, and then a couple breaks in it that people would have to go through
Yeah,
to reduce or slow down the traffic? Just something like that, because just grading the whole thing every year doesn't make much sense to me, but I can see that corridor. I've had my boat up on the trailer, and it's disconcerting that it's not and if it's just graded once a year, that's not a very high standard of
well, maybe that's something we propose to John and to Steve, maybe going in a partnership, and to the state. Remember, you go out there now, and a lot of that messy area is you can directly see the traffic coming and going from the state facility. You know, they're driving big pieces of equipment in there to maintenance them, and then they're driving them out. I mean, that also is creating a lot of
Do they
the,
cross John's path, though? That
yeah, of course they do.
Straight from the ramp to the little
Of course they
road?
do.
Somewhat, not
It
entirely.
seems like that's a little bit off to the side. I mean, it's kind of a...
Oh, well, the worst area, though, is the stuff going to the highway, is that going across to his property, across the highway. That's the, I mean, you go out there right now, and you'll see it's pretty distinctive.
Well, the
that
new
it's-
driveway that we put in 10 years ago that
Yeah,
is in good shape,
yeah,
but right in front of the state gate.
Yes.
But that's on the, I think the state is reluctant to do anything there because it is the city right of way.
yeah. Yeah, but maybe we could come do a combined effort, and it's, just throw money at it. I mean, it's big money.
Just trying to use
But-
the money we do spend, it's more smart.
But you are correct in that it's not, doesn't make sense to be paving to grade the whole works. And a pathway would be suffice and save quite a bit of money. Yeah, and maybe that could be something that could be done on a cooperative
Yeah,
basis
co-op.
by the leaseholders and a contractor.
Yeah, because it's, I think that's who it's going to benefit, is the private business.
John, out of curiosity, what's your numbers on haul-outs and
125,
per year?
yeah. That's of vessels, so of actual hauls and launches,
No, no,
250.
how many boats do you haul out every year? How much?
On the, anywhere from 100 to 150.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a lot of sales tax.
Right, right. And I'm just wondering if you had a user fee, in other words, like a same permit we buy for a drive down, each individual, you know, or you could do it in your haul-out fee too, you know, take care of some of the
I mean,
maintenance.
harbor user fee,
Well, a launch permit, you know, instead of just paying $250 a year for it, you know, and if you do 150 launches, that's divided by 250, it's not much. You know, to help cover that maintenance that you're talking about, the road maintenance.
yeah, no, it's,
It'd be interesting to get some costs, just to see.
That's why I was looking at the revenue stream,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, any other questions on the budget?
Do we need any motions? This has already been submitted.
It's already been submitted. It's just an update, so you kind of know.
Okay, I appreciate that. It's been a while since I managed to be at a meeting where we walked through the budget.
There was many years on the harbor board where we didn't even see the budget. Strumdahl just said, it's been taken care of.
you don't need to look at
You
it.
don't need to see it.
You don't need,
Why do you, well, first of all, the question was to me, why do you need to see it? I was just curious. Just curious.
All right, so we have a resolution that was in the packet. And just to consider whether we want to support it, can you tell us about that? Alaska
yeah, so each year there's a number that comes out in the legislature, legislative, and sometimes in the governor's budget. A lot of times the governor leaves it out and doesn't, and we have to kind of fight for it to be put back in the state budget. But what it is it's the municipal harbor match grant. Each community that took over a harbor from the state is eligible to qualify for a match up to $5 million. So last year, the budget was $5 million, and the entire amount went to Wrangell for their new harbor project. This year, there's a couple of other harbors out there that are doing some sizable projects. And so the tally came in to $7.4 million. We've had it upwards of 18, 20 million. We've had it, the lowest is 5. And I think Governor Palin, that year there was zero but that was actually put in the legislative budget. But it's always been between 5 and 20 million, and it's based on what projects have been applied for. So I just hope we fully support it so that it's there when we need it. We've used it for all of our harbors.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the money that comes to support this harbor match is from fuel tax, isn't it? Marine fuel tax?
It just comes out of the general fund, so it could be, I mean, they take in between 30 and 40 million in raw fish tax. They take in, who knows what the marine fuel tax is, millions and millions, but yeah, it's a pittance of what
But
they
it comes
bring
from
in.
that. It comes from stuff that we're already paying for.
Yeah,
That's what I'm getting at.
That's where, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, there's
I'm
no,
contributing to this, so.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
This is why I think we can push, ask them to get something
This is
back.
what they promised to, this is the state, what the state promised when DOT got out of the harbor business. They said, we no longer want to fully support harbors. We think you need skin in the game, but we're not going to abandon you. We're going to have this harbor match program. And so they intend on funding it, but if we don't ask for money, they're not going to budget for it. So this is what we're asking for. Who knows what will get budgeted? Maybe half of that will get budgeted, maybe all of it will. But we hope that all of it gets, and all those projects can be done. So for $7.4 million that the state is anteing up, there's $7.4 million from communities that are getting anteed up to do projects, and more. I mean, if we were to replace the South Harbor, you know, it'd probably cost us 30, 40 million, of which we could only get a match through the state for 5 of it. So there might be projects out there that are, you know, that they're contributing more than 50%.
Does anyone have an objection to recommending that the Assembly support this resolution? Okay, well then I guess you
Yeah.
could note that we, no one here opposes it. I support it strongly.
Yeah, I'm going to ask them to put it on there next. It's just a nice thing to do every year, put a resolution out. You've done it every year. They've done it every year since the inception of it.
Okay, then moving on to the next thing is this, it was an addition to the agenda. It's this, can you just explain this?
Yeah, what I'm asking for is you to ask the Assembly to support a resolution for a project sponsorship of spending money towards putting a match forward for a ADA compliant ramps in the South Harbor. So you can look on this little packet that I gave you, the second page. This is the program. It's a 22-page application that Liz and I are working on. But the second page is actually the resolution. And the weeds are, it's declaring eligibility of the local government of Petersburg to submit an application to DOT for community transportation program for the South Harbor ADA compliant ramps, authorizing Jody to sign the application and future project agreements, or the city manager, sorry. And this is what they have, if you read down, what they are asking for is up to 9% match, anywhere from 9 to 25% match. So it's a pretty good bang for your buck. If you look at the projects we're proposing, and we haven't, Liz and I are kind of trying to decide if we should ask for both of them, or should we just go for the North Harbor one. North Harbor, we have an estimate here from 2016 PND for $1.562 million.
These are all in the South Harbor. You're talking the
These
North
are
Ramp and the South Harbor.
Yeah. And so you see a map there, this North Harbor gangway versus the South Harbor gangway. The North Harbor would be 1.6, the South Harbor, South End South Harbor would be 5.5, or 550,000. And so we're trying to decide, should we put them both in, or should we just north gangway of the South Harbor. We'd have to put anywhere from 150 to 300,000.
Yeah, so they're asking us to contribute nothing less than 9%.
Yeah.
So, goodness.
I know, it's pretty
For
good.
a $2 million
return for your
project,
money.
we have to put in 200,000?
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, and of course you get
Yeah.
your, if you put up to 25%, you get more points.
Yes.
So
More
at
likely to
some
get the
point,
project.
if we could say, well, we could throw, 300,000 at it, we get more points.
Would this be considered head tax eligibility?
Definitely.
Okay, good to know.
Definitely there.
Good to know.
And I'm thinking, you can see that the application is for the 20 to 2023. That's giving us a couple more years to save some more of the raw fish tax money. Right now, we have
Head tax.
2.8 in our savings. And I estimate between 2.4 and 2.6 will be spent as match for the dredging. So that, you can see where we're going to eat up the bulk of our savings in that project. But by a couple years from now, we should get a little raw fish tax this year, a little more next year. We'll start growing that head tax money, of which will not come to the harbor. That's going to stay with the assembly. And so, but I can see that there will be definitely pots of money.
I was going to say, but there's limitations on what we can do with that head tax money. It has to be all marine related to tourism, so ramps, dolphins.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
anyway, I think that there will be plenty of money to cover this if we were to get it. All they're asking for is that if we were to be awarded it, we would match.
How soon is the dredging project going to start?
It will probably be the winter of 2021.
Okay.
So not this coming winter, the following winter. So I think, we're, you got to have something to save for, and I think this is a really valid
So
project.
what's the disadvantage if you apply for this and then find out in 2022 you don't have the match money?
Maybe we'd have to go and ask for a loan. We've done that before, where South Harbor, we had to go out and do a revenue bond.
Yeah. Do we have the ability to borrow money, any department in the town right now, but the Economic Development Fund? Could we lend it? Could they lend us money through there? And then
It has
use
to
head
go-
tax money to pay them back?
If it's over 5%, it has to go to a vote of the people.
Over 5% of what's in the principal.
Right.
How much is in the principal?
Just under 4 million.
So you're looking at 20,000, or 200,000, I mean. That's about the project. You wouldn't have to go to the vote if you could keep it under 200.
Right. So I think, the money is it's a good bang for your buck. It's, anytime you can get, 80-20 split or better.
This is a 90-10, it looks like.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to push for maybe more like a 20%
Yeah,
match,
I
because you
get
get
what
more,
you're saying,
you
yeah.
get more points. You're scored on how you answer, and if you can say, yes, we can match you 19% versus 9.9%, you're going to get more points for that.
Yeah.
You have to get but authorization from the cruise ship people to, where they wouldn't challenge us.
Actually, it's the assembly that has to, again, that head tax money is not coming to the harbor. That is it's staying the same place sales taxes. It's staying the same place your sales taxes. What Juneau's, I was just reading that article this morning, the judge recommended, instead of it becoming, a hard and fast law to what you can and cannot use it very specifically, they recommended that, and Juneau's going along with it, to meet annually and discuss tourship with the Borough of Juneau on eligible projects. So yeah, I think that's what the courts are advising, is that you stay, that if you have some kind of a committee or whatever, that there are representation from the tourship agency.
So it sounds like it's the tourist ship companies then that will dictate what you can use it for. So if they have a need of more bathrooms on Main Street, then the tourist ship company can say, well, we'll,
Yep,
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
So, and I, they've specifically said bathrooms are a real stretch, so.
Well, but I mean, but if the tourist ship company says they want them,
Yeah, and there's no argument, and they're not going to
Yeah.
sue you over it, well, then that's great.
yeah, that's what I'm getting at, so that's.
What they were, primarily what kicked this into gear, the lawsuit into gear, was, I think, a sidewalk issue. They rebuilt a portion of downtown sidewalks, and the cruise ship had a hard time justifying that. They felt like it was too far away from the cruise ship dock to really
Oh, okay.
be
So-
meant for the cruise.
So it wasn't
So
close to the
anyway,
cruise ship company.
it was, and the judge didn't want to say, hey, it's the entire infrastructure that they're coming to tie up to, so we're not going to be, but there are limits. So that's kind of the way they left it. They said it has to be, it has to benefit the tour ship. Now, how far down that trail you want to go, if you guys can discuss it between yourself and come up with,
Well, that ramp-
projects, then,
That North Harbor, that north end of the South Harbor ramp has been,
yeah, it's 64 feet long.
yeah, it should be 90.
It is, yeah, it's pretty treacherous. We've done what we can. We've resurfaced it. We have, got the cleats. It's pretty nice for a 64-foot ramp, but an 84-foot ramp would be ADA compliant. And then if you look at the design,
The new flag.
it's wide enough to allow EMS down right to the top of the ramp. It also includes a mooring pile at the corner so that the tour ship could push a little further north, using that area to actually put a tie-up line on that corner, bike rack, the whole thing. So,
I gotta say, though, that $1.5 million, it just seems crazy to me
There's a lot of remodel.
for another
well,
ramp. I don't
again,
think we can
Bob,
afford that stuff.
it is, you got to look at all what we're talking. We're talking, you got to look at the item description. Mobilization. Well, mobilization is one of those fluffy things that you put in there. The closer you live to Petersburg and you're a contractor, that number comes down. You go down here, they also have things like 10% contingency. They've got, you look at the estimate construction bid is 1.1. You look at, some of these other things. So, these are always high. These are always high. We estimated that approach the engineer estimated that was going to be $380,000, and we got it built for $187,000. So, it is what it is. They've got to shoot high for these things, but don't get hung up on, too hung up on prices. On estimates, I guess. Don't get too hung up on
Well,
estimates.
the other thing too, though, is if you get both of them for 200,000, that's what you have to look at. Because that's what this grant, that's what this is all
Right,
about.
hey,
So it's
we're,
200,000, and they're changing the approach.
right.
That's the thing, they're having to put a whole new concrete bridge in there.
Right.
Put new piling in.
Piling, the whole,
Well, $200,000 is what you have to think about, and not
That's what
not
we
the
have.
overall cost. And to me, that seems like what it should be,
And maybe it'd be
realistically
less.
put in there for, but you know what I mean?
yeah, maybe
But
it'd be
I'm just
less.
saying, yeah.
All they're asking here, all I'm asking you to say is that, we support throwing money at,
Yep.
and it seems like it's a pretty reasonable, to pay for it out of pocket, yeah, you're right.
no, we're
It's
not
something that
gonna do
we
that.
couldn't afford, but that's why I'm trying to find grants. That's why the entire waterfront was built off of grants. It was not built out of your mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Your mortgage did not build the drive down. Your mortgage did not build the new North Harbor. Your mortgage didn't, it's not coming, it's coming out of these grants, and it's coming out of revenue that we are, new revenue. So,
All right. I'd entertain a recommendation from you guys for the assembly on this.
I'll second that.
who
Who first did it?
who first did it?
I assume I can first.
You can't, so move.
Thank you.
Okay.
Who second? Glenn, thank you.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Sorry, I'm not supposed to say anything.
Thank you.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay. We're on to communication. Discussion, ideas for our next meeting.
Yeah.
Take a minute on this. Anyone, I don't know when we'll have a meeting. I'm not sure even my exact role in calling a meeting, if it's, I think it's at the pleasure of the assembly. Is there anything you see coming down from the assembly, Kurt?
Not that I know of, unless Glo brings something to our attention that needs immediate attention, but right now I just think it's perking along. I think what you guys just did here is great. There's a lot of, you just accomplished a lot of things that can keep us moving forward here, so.
We'll let your colleagues know we're happy to look into things if we can help. We have a pretty diverse viewpoint.
You bet, you bet.
Happy to take up things. Same with individual members. Let me know if you want to have a meeting.
Yeah.
No, yeah, this was huge. Thanks, you guys. This is great.
Other than that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, thanks, you guys. You got someone via